Welcome back to the channel, y'all. Today I'm very excited because we get to continue our Versus series, and the class we've chosen today is Ranger. If this is your first time with the series, we're going to go through each of the Ranger subclasses, talk about their unique features and class actions, and then we're going to throw them into this tier list that will then be ranking them against all of the current subclasses we have gone over. So if you haven't checked out those other videos in the series, maybe watch them after this one. But without further ado, let's get started. First Ranger subclass we're going to talk about is the Hunter. Now, when you pick up Hunter, you get Hunter's Prey, where you get one of these passive features. You get Colossus Slayer, Giant Killer, and Horde Breaker. Colossus Slayer, kind of boring, but gives you a 1d8 to a target if they're below maximum HP. And then for Giant Killer, if you have a large or a bigger creature that attacks you, you can use your reaction as a melee attack. Now, while there are some cases where this can be useful, it's just not going to come up that often. Now, probably the best pick, at least for the early game, is Horde Breaker here. So if two enemies are standing close together, you can attack them one after the other. I'm not going to go on a huge tangent about Horde Breaker, but every time I bring this ability, I can't count how many times where the enemies are just standing a little too far apart. And then I feel like I made the wrong choice as far as my passive, because Colossus Slayer there, it'll work every time. But on the flip side, I feel like when I don't bring Horde Breaker, I start noticing all the situations where Horde Breaker would work. But I don't want to think about it too much, or I will be flip-flopping back and forth for the next 10 to 15 minutes. At level 7, we get a defensive tactic. So we got 3 choices here. We got Escape the Horde, which is going to give enemies disadvantage on their opportunity attacks against you. So this is mostly for getting into the mix and then trying to get away. This passive feature, it's okay. We then get Steel Will, which will give us advantage on our saving throws from being frightened. And this is actually pretty good because there's a lot of enemies in Baldur's Gate 3 that try to frighten you. And this status effect kind of sucks to have on you. And then our last choice is multi-attack defense. So when an enemy hits you, if they have an extra attack or a multi-attack, those next strikes will have a -4 to their attack roll. And this is a debuff that stays on them until their next turn. So out of the 3 of these, I like Steel Will and I like multi-attack defense. Overall, these are just some nice passive features. At level 11 for Hunter, we pick up Volley and we pick up Whirlwind. Now, these 2 abilities make Hunter one of the best, if not the best, AoE class in the game. The amount of damage they can do at an area is absolutely ridiculous, and that's not even factoring in if they have a potion of speed or if somebody has haste casted on them. If you've never played with a Hunter in the late game, go ahead and try it for a few encounters, and you can come back to this video and thank me later. Now, when it comes to ranking the Hunter, there's a lot of things we need to consider. At level 3, they get a nice power bump with something like Horde Breaker, and that can be really good. But they don't turn into an absolute monster until level 11. And that's basically the whole game. I mean, you'll have Act 3 left, but you're already done with most of the game. So we have to take into account how good is the class throughout the time you're playing it. And just as a reminder, we're not taking into account multi-classing either. I'm going to stick them into the B tier because their best feature doesn't come until late in the game. But depending on how the tier list is shaking out, this one might slip into A-, but I'm being conservative with it. It's just going to stay in B tier for now. Next up, let's do fan favorite Ranger, the Gloomstalker. And as soon as you pick up this subclass, you are front loaded with a lot of great subclass features. First one we get here is Dread Ambusher. So this is going to increase our movement speed, and it's also going to let us do an additional attack at the start of our turn. And that additional attack is going to do more damage, a 1d8. Additionally, we pick up Superior Dark Vision, so we can see up to 24 meters in the dark. And we also pick up 2 skills, Dread Ambusher Hide, and then Umbral Shroud. I really like Dread Ambusher Hide here because it lets us use stealth with our bonus action. So while in combat, after we're done doing all of our attacks and we have our increase in movement speed, we can use our bonus action to hide. And then when it's your next turn, when you attack, you're going to have advantage because you're coming from stealth. So with this kit alone at level 3, this makes Gloomstalker the strongest class in the game for Act 1. And I forgot to mention it, but Dread Ambusher also gives you +3 to your initiative, meaning you're going to be first in the turn order, and anybody on the field that you want dead, they're gone. At level 5, we pick up Misty Step, which is a great mobility option. And then at level 7, we pick up a passive feature, Iron Mind. We're going to get proficiency on our wisdom and our intelligence saving throws, so this is nice. At level 9, we do get the spell Fear, and this is nice. This is a cool concentration, but for a Ranger here, I kind of think I'm just going to stick to Hunter's Mark, but it's a good spell overall. And then at level 11, we pick up Stalker's Fury, which is a passive feature. When we miss a weapon attack, you can make another weapon attack for free, and we can do this once per turn. So when it comes to ranking the Gloomstalker here, I have to stick it into A tier. Again, that's because that first initial kit you get at level 3 is just so damn strong throughout the game. Like I said, you're basically first in the turn order, and any enemy that you want gone, you can absolutely just delete them with how much damage you can output. Gloomstalker is almost like the de facto ranger, and there's a good reason for that. They just have an incredibly strong kit very early on. This is an easy A tier. Next up, we have a personal favorite of mine, and that's the Beastmaster. And speaking of Beast, come here, girl. Yeah, S tier class, S tier subclass, yeah. You bet your asking animal companion I pick as Beastmaster as Wolf. Okay, yeah. I'm sticking into S tier. I'll stick it into S tier. Okay, see you later. Okay, she's gone. Yeah, we're not sticking Beastmaster into S tier, so let's break it down real quick. Now, as level 3 as Beastmaster, you get to pick your animal companion, and by that I mean you get to pick a wolf. Now, what's nice about a wolf here is they have praise scent, so if they attack an enemy that has Hunter's Mark on them, they're going to do an additional 1d6. These beast companions are pretty good, but their size can make them kind of clunky to move around, and they don't have the best movement speed either. But having essentially an additional attack and then another ally on the field is never a bad thing. And yes, the irony isn't lost upon me that I have Ranger Shadow Art there with a wolf companion. Anywho, moving on. And at level 5, we will get the passive feature Companion's Bond. This will make your pet tankier, where they will get additional AC, and they will also have some more health. At level 7, they pick up exceptional training, so something like jump, dash, disengage, and help you can now do as a bonus action instead of a regular action. So this helps your beast companion do some supportive things without sacrificing their regular action for damage. Now at level 8, our beast companion does get more health, but as we've been leveling up as a Beastmaster, our animal companion, their appearance has changed. I believe that starts at level 5, and we're also picking up new class actions like Infectious Bite. Again, in the case of the wolf here. At level 11, we get Bestial Fury, and we have the ability to use Lupine Slash here. In addition to that, our animal companion here, our beast companion, gets extra attack. So if we're counting our ranger's regular attack and then they get an extra attack, add that to our beast's attack, and now they have an extra attack. That's 4 attacks. That's all coming from this one subclass. Now when ranking Beastmaster, it's a little tricky because depending on which beast you take, obviously you're going to get a different result. In the case of the wolf here, and I guess some of the larger ones like the bear too, moving them around can be a little bit clunky. But what I will say is, Beastmaster has a nice ramp up in power. Obviously, you get the big bump when you pick the subclass at level 3, and then they just continue to get stronger at a steady pace. And at level 11, when your beast companion unlocks basically their special class ability, on top of getting extra attack, Beastmaster is just really good. Just really good. So I think if you don't mind having a companion subclass, I think this settles into like an A- tier. But if you really don't vibe with having a companion or like a minion, I could see you putting into B tier, but I'm obviously a fan of animal classes, so it's staying in A- for me. And last up for the ranger here, we have the Swarmkeeper. At level 3, we get Praise Scent, so similar to Beastmaster, we will do additional damage on targets that have Hunter's Mark on them. We also get to pick up our swarm. You got bees, moths, and jellyfish. Each one of these come with their own additional effect. So once per turn, when you make an attack, your swarm abilities will pop up and you'll get 3 choices. We also pick up the spell Fairy Fire and the cantrip Mage Hand, and these are nice additions to have. Moving on to level 5, we pick up the spell Web. But at level 7, we get our Writhing Currents and our Writhing Tide. So Writhing Tide, it's essentially a bonus action that costs 1 of our currents, and it gives us a great mobility spell, kind of like Fly, or maybe like a Misty Step, but it's really nice because it doesn't cost a spell slot. At level 9, we pick up Gaseous Form. This is more so something to do outside of combat, not necessarily something you want to do in combat, because you can attack, but while outside of combat, you can go through like small cracks and stuff, so that's a nice utility option. And finally, at level 11, we get Mighty Swarm. So our swarm attacks, they all basically get upgraded. So our damage option, going to do more damage. Our teleport option, we're going to get 2 AC for it for 1 turn. And then our utility option will get an additional effect. So in the case of jellyfish, we're going to be able to shock our target and also disarm them if they have a weapon. For the moth, it's blind and slow. And then for bees, it's a pushback that can then potentially make them prone. And it looks like there's no room on the bench for the Swarmkeeper, but when we're ranking the Swarmkeeper, I think I have to stick it in A-. The Swarm feature is pretty good, and it procs every turn as long as you hit a target, and I do like Writhing Tide as a mobility option. option. Now their level 11 power bump with Mighty Swarm, probably my least favorite power gain when it comes to all the Ranger subclasses. So to me, Swarmkeeper, similar to Beastmaster there, it just steadily gets stronger throughout the game without any like dips in power. Alright, and here is an update to the tier list here. You can see I'm putting Gloomstalker pretty high up there on A tier. Tempest Domain Cleric, I did just slip up into S tier because A tier was looking pretty crowded. But Beastmaster and Swarmkeeper, both in that A- tier. Beastmaster obviously sitting at the top of the A- tier. And then I do think Hunter, because of how strong it gets at level 11, it's going to sit at the top of B tier there. But that is all the Ranger subclasses. You guys let me know your favorite Ranger subclass and where you would put this on the tier list. But that's enough yapping from me. If you made it this far, I appreciate the hell out of you, and I'll see you next time. Peace and take care.